guys, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. We're going to be going over the second episode of Gypsy Rose Blanchard Life After Lockup. The second episode aired. I really don't know when it aired, but I watched it yesterday. So we're going to be going over the second episode because it is like her first official week essentially outside of prison, and she's starting to hit some there's like some bumps in the road, like, oh, she's married, but like she don't know how to cook, and her ex reaches out to her stepmom, and her husband have a little bit of a situation due to that. Her husband asking, does your stepmom not respect our marriage? And then her and her husband getting into somewhat of a disagreement over a puppy. So I have so much to say about this because what we know now is Gypsy has left Ryan. She wanted this puppy so bad. And Ryan was like, let's just think about everything. Let's not jump right into getting a puppy. They get the puppy. She left. She left the puppy with Ryan. And now who's paying the consequences? You know what it made me think of? Not going to lie. Like the puppy situation. It made me think of like my, like a 5-year-old child who is impulsive and they want something. And you're like, well, there's a lot of responsibility that comes behind it. I'm not even say a 5-year-old. My son, he's 16, but when he was like 14 or 15, he wanted a puppy really, 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 really bad. And I was like, it's a lot of responsibility, because he wanted like a newborn. I'm like, you have to, not a newborn, like a puppy. I'm like, you got to potty train. You got to do this. You got to take it out. You got to blah, 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 blah. I got it, mama. I can do it. And then guess what? He couldn't do it. And neither could I, because I worked 24/7 almost. And he had football and he had school. And sometime into it, he was like, mama, I really didn't understand how much work it is. So she made that decision like a child. He ended up going with it, I think, to appease his wife, or, because he did try to tell her, like, we need to talk about this. It's something we need to talk about. We don't need to just jump into it. And they ended up getting the puppy. And who was the puppy left with? Now, Ryan. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, there's a lot that went on in this episode that we're going to talk about. So let's get into it, you guys. This episode is called Independence is Scary. So on last week's episode, though, we see Gypsy get out. She was planning to go to a Kansas City Chiefs game. I can see you, Colby. It does say that you're a member. Also, you guys, I'm not going to be able to see the chat for a minute. I was actually just pulling my notes up and I saw that in the side. So if you are adding me, I won't be able to see because I'm going to have my notes. They got to kind of go up right here. I like that song. Mama, ooh, I didn't mean to make you cry. That song, I like that song. Anyways, somebody in the chat. I'm not going to repeat what you said just because this will probably get limited ads anyways. But anyways, last week, Gypsy got out of prison after 8 years. Her husband, Ryan, was super excited to be the one to go pick her up. They were planning to go to a Kansas City Chiefs game and stay a few days in Missouri at an Airbnb that her family rented out. It was going to be Ryan, stepmom, dad, half-sister, her attorney, and his wife were there. Once out of prison, she and Ryan spent their first night in a hotel where Gypsy discovered that the D is fire. The next morning, she headed to the Airbnb to meet up with her family. While driving over to the Airbnb, followed by paparazzi, she receives a call from her. That's not what I was talking about. That's the song, though. That's the song. Oh, okay. Anyways, chat. Okay. On the way to the Airbnb, she receives a call from her Missouri P.O. The P.O. asking her, hey, are you on your way to Louisiana? Because she technically was supposed to go straight to Louisiana. She explains that she is not on her way to Louisiana, that her plans are to stay in Missouri for a couple of days, and that she's already had this approved by her Louisiana P.O. Missouri P.O. tells Gypsy that if she doesn't follow the directive that she's been given by him, she could go back to jail. He tells her, and this is as they pull into the garage of the Airbnb, and they are stopped. They are not going. He says, You are not allowed to make any stops in Missouri. You are to go straight to Louisiana. Do you understand that?" And she says, "Yes, sir." And I'm like, because um you are stopped." I literally was like, she's literally stopped as she's being told by her PO, "Go straight there. You are not to make any stops." I'm like, we are literally witnessing Gypsy Rose Blanchard not listening to her PO. Like, lie to her PO, essentially. I was like, okay. Anyways, we see that. We see her get out, go in, meet with her family. Uh, Let me get back to my notes. She greets her family. It was an awesome little reunion, and then they break the news of what the Missouri PO just told Gypsy. The trial lawyer steps in to figure out the situation. The lawyer calls the Louisiana PO and tells him what's happening, and the Louisiana PO tells Gypsy that it is okay that she stay in Missouri, that he will be off until January 3rd, anyways, that the probation and parole office will not even be open until January 3rd. He's like, nobody will even be there. I'm not going to hold you in contempt. So if you want to stay in Kansas, that's fine. If you want to stay, it'll be okay. So for a few moments, Gypsy felt relieved, thinking that she was good to stay in Kansas. But Missouri PO called back and was like, "Where are you at? Are you en route?" And she's like, So I just talked to my Louisiana PO and he gave me like the okay." And the Missouri PO is like, "Listen, I'm telling you that this is a directive that like you have to report ASAP to Louisiana." So her lawyer steps in and is like, "Hey, this is who I am. I was her trial lawyer. So there's no way that she can report to her Louisiana PO until January 3rd because there will literally be nobody for her to report to. Nobody will be in the office due to the holidays. We just got off the phone with Louisiana PO. He gave her permission to stay here. So she can stay, right?" So that's where we pick up at. That's where the episode picks up at. Um, so we start with Gypsy. She runs into the bathroom crying, even though that's not the picture that I have up, whatever. She runs into the bathroom crying as her lawyer is talking to the Missouri PO still. Gypsy is scared that this PO will hold her in violation and send her back to jail. Gypsy then sits on the bed for a little bit of a confessional, and she says that she is a very responsible person and she is not going to argue with anyone. Yeah, you are not going to argue with your probation officer, your parole officer. That is one thing you really don't want to do. Okay, so love Tim McGraw. I actually moved my notes so I could actually see the chat a little bit. Love Tim McGraw. Why aren't you just quoting songs? I feel like you're like, never mind. Somebody that I know that does that. But anyways, okay. So yeah, she's like, "I'm a very responsible person. I'm not going to argue with anyone. If my PO gives me a directive, then I'm going to follow it." I'm like, "Girl, we saw your PO say, do not stop anywhere in Missouri. Go straight to Louisiana." As you pulled into a garage, stop, got out, and went visited. But I mean, I probably would have did the same thing if my family was there running an Airbnb. I would have been like, "Stop, and I hope I don't get in trouble." Anyways, um, she then says, "They always say the justice system is meant to fail an individual, but I'm not going to let it fail me. I'm not going to let that happen." And I was like, I can kind of believe that. I see the justice system fail people left and right, so it does suck. Um, After that, Gypsy receives another call from the supervising parole officer. So that she don't even receive another call from the male that she's been speaking to, but she gets a call from a female. So I think she's going to call from her PO's boss. That's who I think it is. And the female says, "I just want to make sure you understand that Missouri is giving you a directive to go to Louisiana now." Gypsy asks, she's like, "Well, immediately or tomorrow morning?" And the PO asks, "Well, what is the plan? Was that the plan for you to leave tomorrow morning?" And Gypsy says, "I mean, if that's what you will allow me to do, then yes, because me and my husband have not slept more than 2 hours." The PO then gives Gypsy the okay to stay one night in Kansas, but must leave by noon the next day. So the family, they're happy. They're like, you know what? We can live with that. We can live with one night. We'll leave tomorrow. Great. Let's have a good time. So after that, we flip to this scene, which is Gypsy talking to her. Because their accent, it makes me want to talk like them. I love a Southern accent, like Deep South, New Orleans. Anyways, Gypsy is talking to her sister and her stepmom, Kristy. And Kristy's like, so, how was last night? How was the bed? Was it comfy? And I'm like, Kristy, girl, we know what you're asking. You're right. Listen, I don't know. It's weird to me to hear her stepmom, like, so how was last night? Like, I don't know. But Gypsy's like, oh, the bed was really comfortable. And she's like, we consummated our marriage. And Gypsy's reaction was weird. Kristy's reaction was weird. Like when Gypsy said we consummated our marriage, Kristy was like, yeah, high five, and then gave her a hug. I'm like, that's kind of strange. Like, what? And then Gypsy goes, it was good. And Kristy was like, you got bragging rights, girl. You deserve it. What? What's the qualifications for somebody to have bragging rights over having good sex? I'm just curious. Being involved in unaliving your mom, going to jail for 8 years. Like, is that what warrants bragging rights? I don't know, but I'm super confused. Yes, that's her stepmom. When her stepmom's like, so how was your night last night? Was the bed comfy? Knowing that it was the first night that she had with her husband. And she's like, we consummated our marriage. And her stepmom's like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Hug, hug. What? I don't know. I don't. Maybe they have like more of like a friend relationship than like a mother relationship. I don't know. Either way, yeah. Gypsy's like, it was good. It was good. And she's like, bragging rights, girl. You deserve it. And Gypsy then tells them, she's like, I'm just so happy it was with the right person. hmm After that, Gypsy and her sister have a little talk. They go to the bedroom and they sit down, and her sister asks her if she has figured out birth control. And Gypsy says, no, not yet, but we are using condoms. Her sister then asks, well, do you want kids right away? And Gypsy says, well, I want kids, but I don't think it would be smart to have them right now. However, if it did just happen, I wouldn't be sad about it. Gypsy continues to say that she wants to settle into her marriage first. Her sister then asks Gypsy, well, do you think all the medication or the surgeries that you went through, do you think that will affect your ability to have children? And Gypsy says, I don't think so. I went to 2 gynecologist appointments and had 2 pap smears while in prison. Everything came back normal. The sister tells Gypsy that while she wanted to talk to her about this, she doesn't want Gypsy to think that she is trying to tell her what to do, and that she will be there to support her, Gypsy, every step of the way. Um, After that, they celebrated like Christmas. They opened presents. They had non-alcoholic beverages. They had cake, balloons for presents. I think Ryan got her these boots. He also got her some black red bottom Louis Vuitton heels. That was his big gift, he said. Gypsy's dad got her a necklace that had a really sweet saying on it. It was long, so I didn't type it all up, but it did say something along the lines of like, um, I don't know, like I'll always support you, I'll always love you. Like, um, I can't love you for the rest of your life, but I promise I'll love you for the rest of mine. I don't know, it's a really cute saying, whatever. Sure, girl, pretend like you had a V card and didn't hook up in a theater bathroom years before. I know she did. Um, weird. So, anyways, um, the necklace did make Gypsy a little emotional. She got up, she gave her dad a big hug. The next morning, Gypsy does an interview sitting on the bed, and she's like, I have just loved spending so much time with my husband. We've had sex the past 2 nights. even in this room, we've had sex. And the producer's like, even with your family around, y'all have had sex? And she laughs and she's like, yep, even with my family around, we've been having sex. And then she says, that's why I slept so good last night, because she had a lot of sex. Okay, then. That's awesome. After that, everyone starts leaving the Airbnb. So they're saying their goodbyes. And Gypsy and Ryan, they leave, headed to Louisiana. As soon as they pull out, though, of the Airbnb, two paparazzi, they follow behind them. Uh, Gypsy calls her PO, her Missouri PO, and is like, look, we're leaving. We're going to be out of your hair shortly. We're headed to Louisiana. And the Missouri PO is like, thank the Lord. After that, Gypsy and Ryan on their, let me back it up a little bit. On their little trip to Louisiana, they stop to go through a drive-through. I think it's McDonald's. I don't know for sure, but they go through a drive-through, and as you guys can see, y'all see that black car right there? There's paparazzi in that car taking photos. So they're at the drive-through, and the lady working the window says, "Can you guys pull up and wait for your food?" And Ryan responds. He says, "Not really. That guy up there is taking our pictures." And that, so I would be giving him a close-up. And he then says, "This is Gypsy Rose Blanchard." And the cashier is like, "Oh, okay." And Gypsy says, "Yeah, it's my second day out. So I guess it's just something I got to get used to." And the cashier says, "I'm so sorry. Like, that must suck." Now, okay. After that, they go to pull off. And Gypsy, like, immediately goes to pull a fry out of the bag and put it in her mouth. And Ryan says, "Don't eat that in front of him." Gypsy stops, says, "Okay." Once they pass, she puts the fry in her mouth. So I saw that Ryan got a lot of flack for this situation. I saw people saying that he was being rude to the cashier when he told her no, they wasn't going to pull up. I do, and they're like, "Oh, he's so controlling. He told her not to eat that fry." But I looked at it a little bit differently. I guess because I'm constantly looking at like TMZ, The Sun, like all kind of media outlets. I'm constantly looking at them, right? I don't know how many times I've seen like Britney Spears on the front page of like TMZ, looking kind of crazy. Uh, Paparazzi love to do that to people. They love to get you about, you know what I'm saying? Take a picture of it, put it on the front page of their article. They love to get you crying. They love it like that. Oh, I thought you said Gary was found. I was like, what? Okay. Anyways, so I really think like when he was asked, "Can you pull up?" and he said, "Not really." I don't think he was like trying to be like nasty. I think he was just like, "No, not really. We really can't." Like, oh, and people was like, he was so quick to brag. "This is Gypsy Rose Blanchard." More than likely, when he was like, "Not really," there's a picture. There's a guy up there taking our picture. Like, I'm not going to give him a close up. I feel like the cashier probably was like, "Why is somebody taking y'all's picture? Like, what do you mean?" So she probably gave some sort of confused look. This is just my theory, to where he felt like he needed to explain, like, "Well, this is Gypsy Rose Blanchard. That's why somebody's trying to get our pictures, and that's why I don't want to pull up and give them close-ups." So I think it was more something along the lines of that, like him just trying to explain and not necessarily him trying to brag, but I could be wrong. The fry thing, I feel like he was thinking, "Oh, we don't want him to snap photos of you mouth open, insert and fry, and then that be the picture that they use." I mean, this is literally her second day out. There's not a lot of close-up photos of her yet. So the first couple of photos that comes out is of her like that. I think that's what he was trying to prevent. I don't think I'm not gonna say he didn't do some things that rubbed me the wrong way, but I think that was genuine. That's just my opinion. Anyways, there he is telling like Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She's eating the fry. Okay, they get home. They get home. It's the next day. Gypsy is sitting on the couch, relaxing, and I thought this part was so funny. Gypsy's like, "Hey Alexa, play Shake It Off by Taylor Swift." And Gypsy is just like so like happy about like 8 years ago she went in prison. You could not just say, "Hey Alexa, play music," and music started. So she was like really excited about it. And then Alexa says, "Would you like me to start your free trial with whatever music?" I don't think they said whatever. And Gypsy says, "Yes." And Alexa goes, You are missing your payment option, so I'm unable to process your request at this time. And Gypsy's like, oh, dang it. And I was like, oh, like when I hear her like talking to Alexa and telling Alexa to play music, I'm thinking, this is like tickling her fancy to be able to do something like that. Somebody that's never seen that to be able to do that all of a sudden. And then it's like, nope, no can do. Sorry. She's like, oh, after that, we see her and Ryan unpacking. Um, Gypsy tells the camera that her relationship with Ryan has went from a prison relationship to an actual real world marriage. She says so far it's going great and they are really happy. Ryan tells the camera that he is so happy to have his wife home and he has been waiting a long time to have her, but he understands that her family has waited as well. He says he knows they are probably jealous of how he gets so much of Gypsy's time, but he is okay sharing her. He says he feels like nobody knows her as well as he does. He's like, she wanted me to be the one to pick her up from prison. She wanted to move in with me. And he says, her parents are coming over tomorrow and I'm going to give them their time with her. It's no big deal. But that's also my time too. So that kind of threw me off a little bit because I'm like, oh, that's really nice of you to be like, they're coming over tomorrow. I'm going to give them their time. But then he's like, not a big deal. He's like, but it's my time too. I'm like, what? Okay. I skipped the whole car scene. So you guys remind me about that. How did I skip it? I don't know. I'm going to jump back to it actually right now so I don't forget. Before they got home, Gypsy says, so guess who reached out to Kristy the day that I got out of prison? And Ryan is like, who? And she's like, Ken. And Ryan was confused. He's like, why would Kristy even tell you that? He goes, does Kristy even respect our marriage? And Gypsy goes, yes, baby, of course she does. And he's like, well, I don't know. Why would she even tell you that? And a part of me is like, I kind of understand that because Gypsy said in the documentary that she had a really hard time getting over Ken. Like she really struggled to get over Ken. So I'm like, I mean, look what it potentially caused. Yeah, domino effect of her finding out. But here's the thing. Even if Kristy wouldn't have told her, Kim probably would have been messaging her in a day or two anyways, and she would have been able to have that relationship anyways. But I would feel some type of way if I am married to you, spent 2 years of my time, fostering this relationship with you in jail, and then your ex reaches out to your stepmom and your stepmom tells you that, but don't tell me that. I would feel better about it and feel like it wasn't scandalous or like they were trying to be secretive about it if she would have told you in front of me. Like the fact that Kristy told Gypsy without Ryan around and did not include Ryan in that makes me feel like she was purposely trying to hide it from Ryan. So yeah, in the car ride home, Gypsy tells Ryan this, and Ryan is like, I don't like that. Like, does she even respect our marriage? And she's like, yes. Anyways, jump back to the house over here. Gypsy is showing us some sexy outfits that Ryan bought her when they first started dating. She says Ryan had full confidence back then, even back then, that we would work out. She shows us this outfit and says this was the outfit that she actually wanted to wear the first time they consummated their marriage. She said, but I ended up just throwing my clothes all off. All right, then. She then goes on to explain that she was never really comfortable with her sexuality. She was like, I have a lot of scars on my body. So I wonder if Ryan would even be attracted to me. She said, I felt like covering up, like I was scared for him to even look at me down there. And she said, but he told me that it was okay. She continues talking about how for a long time she questioned her sexuality because as a teenager, she felt that she was attracted to girls. She said she was even able to experiment with that in prison. And then she says she's kissed more girls than guys because in prison she had access. Anyways, Right here, she starts talking about how she wondered if she even really had a sex drive. She said because in prison, there is a non-masturbation rule. So if you get caught doing that, you get in trouble. And she's like, but it wasn't really a big deal to me because I can go 6 months and be absolutely okay and it not even bother me. She says, so I began to wonder if I'm even a sexual person. And then she says, but upon getting out of prison, I realized I'm a freak. That's what she said. She said, but since I got out of prison, I know now I'm a freak. The girl Gypsy's a freak. Anyways, after that, Gypsy's parents come over. We are having a New Year's Eve dinner celebration. They have non-alcoholic drinks. Ryan got some steaks because Gypsy has never had steak. They are preparing the steaks right there. After that, Ryan and Gypsy's dad, Rod, go outside to like cook the steaks on like the grill or something. I don't know. They walk out. When they walk out, Gypsy tells Kristy that she needs to tell her something that she's never told her before. So she tells Kristy that back when she was little in her wheelchair, she's like, do you remember when you and dad would come to my wheelchair games? And Kristy said, yes. She said, well, after the games, my mom would tell me that you and dad were making fun of me and that you guys were calling me the R word. Kristy told Gypsy, she's like, no, that's not true. We would never do that. We never looked at you that way, Gypsy. She was like, that's how your mama saw you, but we didn't see you that way. Gypsy said that Dee Dee did things like that a lot. And after time of hearing things like that about, your dad said this, your dad and Kristy said this, your dad and Kristy called you this, called you that, la-di-da-di-da. She said she just built up a lot of anger towards her dad. They eat dinner. They have a nice little dinner, good times. After that, in a confessional, Gypsy says that she wished her mom would have been honest with her. But instead, Dee Dee did things to make herself look holier than thou, but make her dad and Kristy look really bad. She says she feels that her and her dad are on the right road to fix their relationship. After that, Gypsy is getting ready for the New Year little party they're going to have. So she's got this nice dress. She's got some nice shoes. Kristy does her hair and her makeup. We hear Kristy in a voiceover where she talks about all the things that they missed with Gypsy. She's like prom. We didn't get to be there for that because of how everything happened. Gypsy says she never thought she would look as pretty as she does. She's like, I never thought that I would be able to look in the mirror, have long hair. Oops, I just went through everything because somebody opened my door and threw me off. Okay. Gypsy says she never thought she would look pretty. She said, my mom would never allow me to have long hair, wear makeup, wear a low-cut dress. She said, so these are things that I never imagined I would be able to do. She said she isn't used to looking in the mirror and liking what she is seeing. So she said she is having her Cinderella moment. All right, now she gets dressed. She gets her hair and her makeup done, and she gets this pretty dress on and pretty heels. And the men are standing there waiting for her. And she walks out, and look at them smiling, you guys. Look at that. And let me tell you, her dad, when Gypsy walks out, her dad yells, gorgeous. And I just loved it. I was like, I like her dad. But yeah, he's like, gorgeous. And then Ryan, he's shocked and he goes, that's my wife. And Gypsy responds, yes, I am. What you gonna do about it? With her dad less than a foot away from her. I'm like, I don't know. People are different. So maybe some people do this. Like maybe some young girls talk like that in front of their dads. Like, yeah, baby, I'm your wife. What you gonna do about it? I don't know. I'm just like, what is this wild to you? Like that she like said, I don't know. Maybe I'm I don't know, too vanilla or something. Maybe I mean I talk like that to my husband, but not in front of my dad, not in front of my mom. Like if it was just us and he was like, oh, look at you looking good. I'd be like, what you gonna do about it, babe? But not in front of my dad. I don't know. That's just kind of weird. After that, Gypsy's dad gives a toast. For the toast, he says he is appreciative of Ryan and that he thinks Ryan is a good person. He says that he likes Ryan and his family. He tells Gypsy that he loves her so much and he is so proud of her. He then toasts to Gypsy and Ryan's wedding and their new life. They do a countdown for the new year 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, blah, blah, blah. They pop confetti bottles. Gypsy and Ryan dance, so in love. Gypsy and her dad dance, which was that was a really cool moment watching them dance. Her dad said that he never thought he would ever be able to dance with her like that. He's like, maybe in a wheelchair, like maybe kind of spinning her around in her wheelchair. He says, but I never thought I would be able to dance with her, like standing up. He says Gypsy has taken everything that's been thrown at her, everything the media has thrown at her, everything her mom did to her. She's taken it. He says he thinks that she has something good left to give. Gypsy then says, growing up, she didn't ever think she would have a close relationship with her dad. So what they have now means a lot to her. They take a family photo, they pop some fireworks, and then in a voiceover, as the fireworks are popping, Gypsy talks about how this is her evolution and how she wants to be more than what society has deemed her. Days later, home in Louisiana, Gypsy's cooking some pasta, a little bag pasta. I actually love that little bag pasta. It's super simple and it tastes really good. She explains that she isn't much of a cook, but she is willing to learn. She says she doesn't want to depend on Ryan the way that she had to depend on her mom, that she wants to learn how to do all of the things that a grown woman knows how to do. She never wants to be that dependent on a person again. After that, Gypsy decides to make a prison drink that they call rack. Might as well call it crack because it's got like coffee, Red Bull, Kool-Aid. They call it rack. Anyways, they probably don't need to call anything crack in prison in case they're overheard. Like, hey, did you make the crack? Yeah, you want me to make you a cup of this crack? So, yeah, okay, probably need to call it rack, not crack. Anyways, so she wants to make this rack drink for Ryan. It's literally like coffee, Red Bull, juice. Maybe it's not Red Bull. I think it's actually just coffee, juice, Jolly Ranchers. But she wants to make it for Ryan to try it. And he's not excited. He's not. Hold on, let me go back one. Look at his cup. He's like, but he drinks it begrudgingly. He does not like it. He's not a fan of it. And he tells her, he goes, ooh, that was so bad. Now, after that, they sit down and they start talking about a dog. He's like, I know you want a dog. And she's like, yes, I want a dog. And he says, if it was up to you, we would be going to get a dog today. And she's like, yes, we would. And so he's like, well, what kind of dog do you want? And she's like, a puppy. And he's like, you want a puppy? She's like, yeah, I want a puppy. So he says, listen, I know you want a puppy, but there are other logistics that we have to think about before we can just jump in to get one. And she's like what? And he's like, well, we live in an apartment. And she says, other people in the apartment has dogs. And he says, yeah, but like you would have to take it out for walks. You would have to like really take care of it. Gypsy says in a confessional that when Ryan goes back to work, she don't want to be alone. She's like, I've never been alone. Before prison, my mom was with me 24/7. And I'm like, well, where was she whenever you were taking those pictures with the knife in the red lingerie? Where was she? That you've been alone, girlfriend. Maybe not very long. Maybe when your mom was asleep, you were locked up in the bathroom with a computer. Anyways. But yeah, she's like, I've never been alone. Like my mom was always with me, and then in prison, I had a roommate. We had communal areas, like everything. We had people around. So I want a puppy, so I won't ever have to be alone. It's a companion for when Ryan goes back to work. Anyways, they look at pictures of dogs. At one point, Ryan puts his phone down and he like puts his arm around Gypsy and is looking at her phone, right? Which I didn't think anything about it, but when he did that, she goes, you're hovering. So he moves. And I'm like, huh. It made me wonder, and maybe I'm wrong for this, but it really did make me wonder if she had been like messaging Ken and she was scared that he would respond and Ryan sitting there like looking at her phone, that it would like kind of pop up on the top or something and Ryan would see it. And maybe not. Maybe she just did not want him all on top of her in that moment. That's very possible. And you can be that way. I'm that way sometimes. I'm that way sometimes, with people. I'm like, listen, I'm not feeling too hot. Back off. But it struck me as odd because he wasn't like all up on her. They were looking at pictures of dogs. So he just put his phone down, put his arm around her, and was looking at her phone. And she's like, "You're hovering." And I'm like, that was super strange. Like she didn't want him looking at her phone or something almost. It was, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too deep into it. Either way, I lost track of where I was. Okay. Ryan does move. He moves back. Ryan tells her, he's like, look, I don't mind a dog. He says, but it's going to be a lot of work. It's a lot of responsibility. And Gypsy says she doesn't think there'll be any issues. She's like, listen, I stay at home. You're at work. And Ryan's like, well, I know that's true. He then asks, you want a puppy? You're going to start from jump. She says, yes. And he says, well, what do you think we should name the puppy? And she says, well, we haven't even picked one out yet, so we don't need to worry about a name. Oh, that's where he moved. I don't know. Her face just looks guilty. I don't know. Maybe that's for other reasons. Anyways, so she's like, we don't need to even worry about a name right now. We haven't even picked out what dog we want. And Ryan jokingly says, we can call it hormonal. And Gypsy responds saying, I'm not hormonal. I'm just a woman. And he says, okay, let's call it woman. And she goes, no. And he goes, okay. He then says, living in an apartment, you have to take the dog for walks. You have to clean up their poop and stuff. Like, you have to do all that stuff. And Gypsy says, I'm not an idiot. I know how to care for a dog. And she gets up and she walks outside. And as she's walking outside, Ryan's like, no, baby, I'm not saying you're an idiot at all. She goes outside. She sits down. Ryan follows her. She asks him, she says, why are you treating me like an idiot? And he tells her he's not trying to. She says, she's like, that's something you would tell a child, that a dog is a lot of responsibility. You don't tell a grown woman that. And Ryan says, baby, you're going to be great with a dog. And Gypsy says, I know a dog is a lot of responsibility. I will walk it. I'll feed it. I'll do everything for the dog. And Ryan says, okay, sweetie. And I'm like, but you didn't. You left the dog with the person that really wants to think about all the responsibilities. You left the dog with him. You're not feeding it. You're not walking it. He's doing it now. So maybe, yeah. And vet bills, dog food. So maybe you should have talked about it a little bit longer, Gyps. Anyways, Ryan tells Gypsy that he would never treat her like a child, that he knows people do that, and it upsets him when people treat her like a child. And Gypsy responds, I know you know, and now you're starting to act like those people. In a confessional, Ryan says that it's a thin line with Gypsy because he does try to help by giving her advice, but he doesn't want to come off as controlling or treating her the way that her mother did. He said he feels like he says something. He said, I feel like I'm just saying things like a normal husband would say, like talking to their wife. Like, oh, you want a dog? It's a lot of responsibility. You got to do this, that. But she's like, wow, stop acting like my mom. Ryan explains that he knows there are certain things that trigger Gypsy, but because he has things that trigger him as well. So he's just trying to do his best. Gypsy then sits down and she does a little confessional and she says that she and Ryan haven't had major conflict, but the little tiffs they have had, she is open with him about what she is mad about. She says, I don't want to be controlled. And if you want to try to control me, I'm going to push back 10 times harder. She says she didn't have it in her back when her mama would control her. She didn't have it in her to push back against her mom. She was scared and she cowered, but now she has the confidence to push back against someone who's trying to control her. And if you control her, she will push back. Ryan goes to Gypsy again to apologize. We hear a voiceover of Ryan saying nobody ever said it would be easy, but I love her. And I'm in this relationship for the long haul. And no matter what they go through, he knows he and Gypsy will always come out on the other side of things. So that was the episode. And after next week's episode, I think it says, is when she's going to be going to appear on The View and things like that. And there's a lot of press and stuff like that. So that's next week's episode. So pretty interesting. I didn't really agree with Kristy telling Gypsy that Ken reached out. I do feel like if you wanted to tell Gypsy, you should have told Gypsy and Ryan, just out of respect for their marriage. Like it should have been tell them, not just her. Other than that, Elle, do you think Nick should get life in prison since Gypsy got out? I think Nick probably should be somewhere better for him. From what, and here's the thing, I can't give like too much of an opinion because I have not read all the documents or watched a lot of the information that's out there. But what I have seen of Nicholas Godejohn, when I've watched him, I feel like he is I do feel like he struggles from a lot of mental health issues, and I don't think jail is the best place for him. Maybe some sort of facility to maybe find out what type of medication maybe he needs, if there's any at all that he could use to help him. But that's just my opinion as of right now. I don't know. I would really have to dig more into it. But when I see Nicholas Godejohn, he reminds me of a family member that I have that is like 18 now, but literally has the mind of like an excited 6-year-old little boy almost. It's like seeing him walk in court and him seeing his family, and he's like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I know there was a creator one time that was asked, do you think your autistic son could be talked into killing someone? And she was like, yes, he's vulnerable. I do think he could be talked into killing someone. And everybody was like, what? And even at the end, I was like, my son's autistic. And there ain't no way in hell anybody could ever convince my autistic son to kill somebody. I don't think, no. Because my son, he's autistic, but he is also the type that if he knows you're trying to get him to do something crazy, he will look at you and be like, what? You know what I'm saying? But there are different levels of autism. The spectrum is great. It's wide. There's so many different levels. So do I think Nicholas Godejohn could have been persuaded to kill someone? Based off what I know now, and I don't know everything, I do think it's a possibility. And do I think, because from my understanding, the text support her asking him to do it. In his interview, if you watch his interview and Gypsy's, Gypsy lied, continued to lie. When they're like, listen, we know she did, y'all did it, he's like, yeah, we did. I did. And they're like, does Gypsy know you did it? And he's like, well, to be honest, she told me to. So I don't know. L, question. For you and others in Louisiana, is it pretty clear that saying a spade is a spade? No, not at all. Is known as a racially derogatory phrase. I've heard the phrase is not used here. Others have said it. No, that is said all the time here. And what it means is basically when we say call a spade, it means okay, if you're just calling it like it is. This person who maybe has a criminal record, and you say, well, he's a criminal, and he gets offended. And it's like, well, calling a spade is what it is. Like, you're not, it has nothing to do with race or anything like that here. It's just saying, like, I'm telling it like it is concerning a person or something like that. Um, dude, I swear, my phone never stops. Um, yeah, my phone never stops. So that's what it means here. Yeah. Um, so anyways, I've heard people say, let's call a spade a spade. Yeah. Yeah. Like let's be honest. Let's tell the truth. Tell it like it is. That's kind of how it means. When the divorce is going to be in court, would be awesome if you could join in and let us know how it goes. Oh, I can definitely do that. Let me write that down. I need to look into that. Anyways, I have to go. I have to run inside for a little bit, but that was this week's episode. We will do next week's episode next week. So if this is something you're interested in, let me your thoughts. What do you guys think? Thoughts about Ryan? Thoughts about Gypsy? I do think we are seeing Gypsy starting to pull away from Ryan, and I am wondering if she was already talking to Ken at this point. I do wonder if that's why when Ryan went and was looking at the phone, if she was like, um, uh, "You're hovering," and maybe I'm off beat with that. Like maybe I'm like way off base or whatever. And maybe she just really was like, I don't want you on top of me right now. That's very possible. But I'm kind of wondering if maybe she was scared that Ken could potentially text and Ryan would see it. Like maybe she had the sound off on her phone, but maybe it would have popped up on the screen and she was like, oh crap, you gotta get away from me because Ken might text. I don't know. She has had this whole thing planned. She needed Ryan's stability for just a few weeks to lock Ken in. Then he was kicked to the curb. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think you're probably right, and it's unfortunate. But you guys leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, what's your thoughts about Nicholas John? Like I said, I don't feel like I can really make too much of. I don't feel like I can have like too much of an opinion because I don't have all the information. You know. Um, but yeah, you guys leave me your thoughts. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, follow me on my other social media platforms, and I will see you guys maybe later because I actually may do one more live today. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye guys.